The River Duddon, a series of sonnets by William Wordsworth to the Reverend Dr. Wordsworth. The minstrels played their Christmas tune tonight beneath my cottage eaves, while smitten by a lofty moon, the encircling laurels thick with leaves gave back a rich and dazzling sheen that overpowered their natural green. Through hill and valley every breeze had sunk to rest with folded wings. Keen was the air, but couldn't freeze nor check the music of the strings. So stout and hardy were the band that scraped the chords with strenuous hand, and who but listened, till was paid respect to every inmate's claim. The greeting given, the music played, in honour of each household name, duly pronounced with lusty call, and Merry Christmas wished to all. O brother, I revere the choice that took thee from thy native hills, and it is given thee to rejoice, though public care full often tills, heaven only witness of the toil, a barren and ungrateful soil. Yet, would that thou, with me and mine, hadst heard this never-failing rite, and seen on other faces shine a true revival of the light which nature and these rustic powers in simple childhood spread through ours. For pleasure hath not ceased to wait on these retired mountain haunts, nor hath the soul her old estate lost, high-minded and congregants. Thou hast to thee this simple lay, a wrestling tributary buoy to a stream of sway. For when I ran of late, a heedless thing, among the transports of a youthful mind, and souls that were attuned to every string of pity, and were subject to the blind and vague desires that haunt the enthusiast's dreams, it was thy praise, celestial spirit, that I sung, and thy assistance that my harp was strung. Sonnet 1. Not envying Latian shades, if yet they throw a grateful coolness round that crystal spring, Blandusia, prattling on forever, not unmindful of that poetic gleam soft as the Carian's lingering farewell, I turn to thee, far-travelled Duddon, turned to trace the progress of thy glorious stream, spirit of clouds and rocky caves, to build, mid mortal hopes, an undecaying shrine, for memory of the marvellous forms we see of thee and thine, and by this humble aim solaced, public notice I disclaim of what my mortal eye may here behold, uncared for, unknown, or in seasons old. Sonnet 2. Child of the clouds, remote from every taint of sordid industry thy lot is cast. Thine are the honours of the lofty waste. Not seldom when with heat the valleys faint, thy handmade frost with spangled tissue quaint thy cradle decks, and, undisturbed by haste, the morning stretches toward the sun at last, ere the fantastic towers of mist defined, at the soft call of streams less deeply shrined, waving their vaporous banners to the wind, mount, as if loyal servants to obey their sovereign according to the appointed day. Sonnet 3. How shall I paint thee? Be this naked stone my seat, while I give way to such intent. Pleased could my verse, a speaking monument, make to the eyes of men thy features known. But as of all those tripping lambs not one outruns his fellows, so hath nature lent to thy beginning naught that doth present peculiar ground for hope to build upon, to dignify the spot that gives thee birth, No sign of hoar antiquity's control, no echo of a name revered on earth, a Saxon chief or Roman capital, might vainly seek for in this favoured scene a sole memorial of what has been. Sonnet 4. Take, cradled nursling of the mountain, take this parting glance, no negligent adieu. A Protean change seems wrought while I pursue the wild, meandering course thy stream will make, and I have followed thee in this soft mood with conscious pleasure, from the sky serene, when downward in a course unseen, some silent spirit warns me to proceed. And can it be, I ask, that this is all? A course of lively pleasure, guarded round by rocks where lichen still delights to crawl, while on the margin of the grassy ground the primrose flower appears in timely birth, and nature seems to smile upon the earth. Sonnet 5. Sole Listener, Duddon. To the breeze that played with thy clear voice, I caught the fitful sound wafted from every rocky fall around, and then sleeps listening, while the noiseless shade of the tall trees that down thy margin made seemed to suspend the motion of the ground. Was it to thee thus silently renowned that ancient voice spake from the silent cloud? To thee, or when the wild deer roamed, the bird ceased in the heat its notes of summer mirth, that with a sound and with a voice unheard the awakened trembled in its birth, when mountains rocked and the great sea was stirred with tidings of the Son of God on earth. Sonnet 6. Flowers. Ere yet our course was graced with social trees, it lacked not old remains of hawthorn bowers, where small birds warbled to their paramours, and earlier still was heard the hum of bees. I saw them ply their harmless robberies, and there watched the flowers whence they drew their stores, the foxglove, whence they issued with their powers in all their several liveries arrayed. And then I saw the pansy, and I felt my spirit in a moment sink and melt, for there I saw the daisy, and I felt that love and hope, and all that is most sweet, and all that is most bitter, from my heart did in a moment spring and straight depart. Sonnet 7. Change me, some god, into that breathing rose, the lovesick stripling fancifully cried. The budding rose above the streamlet's side, his bright eyes fixed upon its blushing close. Thus would he plead with her between the throes of fruitless sorrow, while the silent tide of Duddon's waters down the valley glide, and in his ear the murmuring ripple flows. But he is gone, and this sweet rose is dead, and all the fond conceits that he had bred, like fairy visions of the twilight hour, have vanished from his thought, and now he sees the verdant field and the cool silent trees, and feels the beauty of this lonely bower. Sonnet 8. What aspect bore the man who roved or fled first of his tribe to this dark dell, who first in this bleak solitude thy waters nursed? Here did he spin, and here along thy bed, a pensive wanderer, did he rest his head. Was it the thirst of wealth, a a thirst accursed that brought him to these wilds? Or was he versed in nature's secrets and her charms? Or was he one who to these solitudes had fled from tyranny and oppression, from the rod of persecution, from the chains of God? Or was he one who loved the lonely sod, and in this peaceful hermitage had sought a refuge from the world and from his thought? Sonnet 9. The Stepping Stones. The struggling rill insensibly has grown into a brook of loud and stately march, crossed ever and anon by plank or arch, and for like use, lo, what might seem a zone chosen for ornament, stone matched with stone, in studied symmetry, with interspace for the clear waters to pursue their race without restraint. How swiftly have they flown, succeeding, still succeeding, and the aid of the exuberant shady greenwood made for the clear waters to pursue their race, and with the flowers that on the margin grow, and with the weeds that in the current blow, to murmur to the passing gale a shade. Sonnet 10. The same subject. Not so that pair whose youthful spirits dance with prompt emotion, urging them to pass. A sweet confusion checks the shepherdless. Blushing she eyes the dizzy flood askance. To stop ashamed, too timid to advance. She ventures once again. Another pause. His outstretched hand he tauntingly withdraws. She sues for help with piteous utterance. Chidden she chides again. The thrilling touch both feel when he renews the wished for aid. Ah, what a sweet auspicious hope is laid in this resolving moment, and how much might wishing lovers kneel for at the side of Duddon stream and clasp his slippery bride. Sonnet 11. The Fairy Chasm. No fiction was it of the antique age. A sky-blue stone within this sunless cleft is of the very footmarks unbereft, which tiny elves impressed on that smooth stage, when there they danced, from rock to rock chin led and chased each other round and round the plain, while Duddon, working its desperate way below, sat listening with untroubled forehead to a strain of music such as wells from airy thought, when chaste desires a pectoral shrine have wrought, and fancy, brooding o'er the wondrous theme, unfolds her wings, and from a mimic dream of shells and seaweed, coral, pearl and gem, doth to the open day her tribute bring. Sonnet 12. Hints for the fancy on, loitering muse, the swift stream chides us on, albeit his deep-worn channel doth immure objects immense portrayed in miniature, wild shapes for many a strange comparison, Niagaras, Alpine passes, and anon, abodes of naiads, calm abysses pure, bright liquid mansions fashioned to endure, when the broad oak drops, a leafless skeleton, and birds and beasts their ancient homes forsake. So thriftily can nature pack her ware, and so with nice economy prepare for the tastes of those who through her regions range, that they who on the wings of fancy rove may see new sights, or dwell on scenes they love. Sonnet 13. Open Prospect. Hail to the fields, with dwellings sprinkled o'er, and one small hamlet under a green hill, clustering with its own dear Duddon still, that dallies with the flowers his margins bore. Hail, ancient manors, sure defence, that kept the hereditary Cumbrian boors of yore from the unfeeling rock, the serviced a fen, the churlish soil, and the inclement air. Now shall our issuing stream, from this sweet bower of thinly scattered fruit trees, find its way to wider scenes and loftier heights display, and to the sea in majesty and power proceeding, though with many a soft delay, the unwearied Duddon to his destined way. Sonnet 14. O mountain stream, O mountain stream, the shepherd and his cot are privileged inmates of thy lofty waste. Look down and see the scale is vast, a Valclusa, where inspired Petrarch sat, and where Vaucluse her mournful tribute paid to the sweet bard of Sorga's banks, and where his Laura's beauty and his sorrows are still fresh and green in many a fragrant shade. But thou art here, a living stream, that flows in its own real freedom and its own delightful course wherever it may please, while on its banks the verdant pasture grows, and the wild rose and the sweet briar are sown with all the native sweetness of the breeze. Sonnet 15. From this deep chasm. From this deep chasm, where quivering sunbeams play upon its loftiest crags, mine eyes behold a gloomy niche, capacious, blank, and cold, a concave free from shrubs and mosses grey. In semblance fresh, as if, with dire affray, some statue, placed perhaps in times of old, had from its pedestal been rencussed down, and rolled into the depth of Duddon's tortured way. So vanishes our glory, so departs the pride of art, and so the works of men, when time, the great destroyer, lifts his hand, and with a breath of his indignant wand scatters their frailties to the winds again, and blots their memory from the hearts of men. Sonnet 16. American Tradition. Such fruitless questions may not long beguile or plague the fancy mid the scenes of peace, where in riven rock, or what we please, we find fit place for Romish sanctuary. But here, upon this river's winding side, a different tale we hear. The Cumbrian hind, with superstitions of a gentler kind, hath peopled with aerial hosts the tide. He sees the fairies in their festive rounds, hears their soft music on the midnight breeze, and oft when all is silent on the ground he sees their shadows dancing on the trees, and in the moonlight, when the stream is still, he sees them drinking of the crystal rill. Sonnet 17. Return. A dark plume fetch me from yon blasted yew, perched on whose top the Danish raven croaks, or braid a crown of nightshade, where the smoke of the spent lightning hath prepared a dew. For I must go, the Sabbath is at hand, and from the top of this high hill I see the village church, and the sweet company of those who to the house of God are bound. I leave thee, Duddon, for a little space, but I shall come again to see thy face, and hear thy voice, when the loud torrents roar, and when the gentle streams are flowing o'er the verdant fields, and the cool, silent trees are vocal with the song of birds and bees. Sonnet 18, Seathwaite Chapel, Sacred Religion, Mother of form and fear, dread arbitress of mutable respect, new rites ordaining when the old are wrecked, or with the temple at thy side appear, in pomp of circumstance to interfere with the gross current of domestic life, and check the sordid strife of man and wife, and teach the peasant boy to kneel in prayer. So have I seen a snow-white swan embrace with its soft wings the bosom of a lake, and on its bosom, with a placid grace, the shadow of its beautiful form make. While on the margin of the grassy ground, the primrose flower appears in timely birth, and nature seems to smile upon the earth. Sonnet 19, the Plain of Donnerdale, the kirk of Ulpha to the pilgrim's eye is welcome as a star, that doth present its shining forehead through the peaceful night, to cheer the lonely traveller with its light. And this sweet vale, with all its happy homes, and fields of gentle verdure, and its groves of ancient oaks, and its own Duddon's stream, that through the midst of the green valley roams, is like a picture of the golden age, when peace and innocence together strayed, and love and joy their festive rounds displayed, and all was happiness, and all was mirth, and all was beauty on the face of earth. Sonnet 20, the Plain of Donnerdale. The old inventive poets, had they seen, or rather felt, the entrancement that detains thy waters, Duddon. Mid these flowery plains, the still repose, the liquid lapse serene, transferred to bowers imperishably green, had beautified Elysium. But these chains will soon be broken. A rough course remains, rough stretches of the wilderness between. Still struggling man-like toward the final main, turns back the way-worn traveller's thirsty need, and stops to listen to the welling reed, where from the turf the oozy waters creep, and with the flowers that on the margin grow, and with the weeds that in the current blow, to murmur to the passing gale a shade. Sonnet 21, the same. I rose, and having left the lovely plain, sped in the direction of the setting sun, and saw the stream, whose course was well nigh run, meandering o'er a wide and sandy plain. I saw the crimson banners of the sun reflected in the waters, as they strayed in many a winding channel through the glade, and in the bosom of the forest dun. Then, as I backward cast my longing eyes, I saw the stream, whose course was well nigh run, meandering o'er a wide and sandy plain. I saw the crimson banners of the sun reflected in the waters, as they strayed in many a winding channel through the glade, and in the bosom of the forest dun. Sonnet 22, Tradition. A lovelorn maid at some far distant time came to this hidden pool, whose depths surpass in crystal clearness Dian's looking-glass, and cooled her brow and hoped some future time to see the reflection of her lover's face in the still water. But the hours passed by, and still she gazed, and still she could not spy the wished-for image. Then she turned away, and with a sigh she said, "It is in vain. I see no lover's face, no form of grace, no sign of hope, no promise of relief. But I will come again, and I will try if I can find some solace for my grief, or in this lonely pool find leave to die." Sonnet 23. The same methinks that no tourist Cumbrian car shall ever pass this way. The lonely star that nightly hangs its lamp above the fell, and the wild winds that round the fountain dwell, and the deep voice of Duddon's stream, that flows in its own real freedom, and its own delightful course, wherever it may please, while on its banks the verdant pasture grows, and the wild rose and the sweet briar are sown with all the native sweetness of the breeze. Sonnet 24. The restoration of the name of the stream. No record tells of utilitarian vice, whose course hath been by man's appointment led, a channel paved with gold. No sacrifice to Mammon's altar hath thy waters shed. But thou art here, a living stream, that flows in its own real freedom, and its own delightful course, wherever it may please, while on its banks the verdant pasture grows, and the wild rose and the sweet briar are sown with all the native sweetness of the breeze. Sonnet 25. The same I thought of thee, my partner and my guide, as being passed away. Vain sympathies, for backward, Duddon, as I turn my eyes I see what was, and is, and will abide. Still glides the stream, and shall forever glide. The form remains, the function never dies, while we, the brave, the mighty, and the wise, we men, who in our morn of youth defied the elements, must vanish. Be it so. Enough, if something from our hands have power to live, and act, and serve the future hour. And if, as toward the silent tomb we go, through love, through hope, and faith's transcendent dower, we feel that we are greater than we know. Sonnet 26. This same, the minstrel sang, and all the moving crowd, with their rude instruments of praise and blame, did to his song with one consent exclaim, "He is a mighty poet, and his name shall be remembered with a just acclaim." But when the minstrel from their sight had passed, they said, "His song was of a fleeting dream, a idle fancy that will not outlast the present hour." So fares it with the fame of poets, who in their own age have found no fitting audience, and the world's award is but a bubble that will burst and fly, a breath of empty air, a passing sound, a name forgotten or a name unheard. Sonnet 27. The same I listened, and the quest of Duddon's stream, a theme of hope and love and joy and fear, did to my soul with such a power appear, that all the world seemed but a fleeting dream. I saw the stream, and all that it had been, and all that it was, and all that it would be, a living, breathing, and a moving scene, a picture of the past and of the things to be. and as I gazed I felt my spirit rise, and in my heart a holy joy I found, that made me feel as if I were a part of that great whole, which in its sacred round doth live, and move, and have its being, and is one with God, and God with it is one. Sonnet 28. The same, not hurled precipitous from steep to steep, but with a gradual fall and gently flowing, the stream descends, and with a murmur low, and with a sound that lulls the ear to sleep, doth to the sea in silent progress go. So fares it with the life of man, that flows in its own real freedom, and its own delightful course, wherever it may please. While on its banks the verdant pasture grows, and the wild rose and the sweet briar are sown with all the native sweetness of the breeze. Sonnet 29. The same, but here, upon this river's winding side, a different tale we hear. The Cumbrian hind, with superstitions of a gentler kind, hath peopled with aerial hosts the tide. He sees the fairies in their festive rounds, hears their soft music on the midnight breeze, and oft, when all is silent on the ground, he sees their shadows dancing on the trees, and in the moonlight, when the stream is still, he sees them drinking of the crystal rill. Sonnet 30. The same. The kirk of Ulpha to the pilgrim's eye is welcome as a star that doth present its shining forehead through the peaceful night, to cheer the lonely traveller with its light. And this sweet vale, with all its happy homes, and fields of gentle verdure, and its groves of ancient oaks, and its own Duddon stream, that through the midst of the green valley roams, is like a picture of the golden age, when peace and innocence together strayed, and love and joy their festive rounds displayed. And all was happiness, and all was mirth, and all was beauty on the face of earth. Sonnet 31. The same. Not so that pair whose youthful spirits dance with prompt emotion, urging them to pass. A sweet confusion checks the shepherdless. Blushing she eyes the dizzy flood askance. To stop ashamed, too timid to advance, she ventures once again. Another pause. His outstretched hand he tauntingly withdraws. She sues for help with piteous utterance. Chidden she chides again. The thrilling touch both feel, when he renews the wished-for aid. Ah, what a sweet auspicious hope is laid in this resolving moment, and how much might wishing lovers kneel for at the side of Duddon stream, and clasp his slippery bride. Sonnet 32. The same from this deep chasm, where quivering sunbeams play upon its loftiest crags, mine eyes behold a gloomy niche, capacious, blank, and cold, a concave free from shrubs and mosses grey, in semblance fresh, as if, with dire affray, some statue, placed perhaps in times of old, had from its pedestal been renkersed down, and rolled into the depth of Duddon's tortured way. So vanishes our glory, so departs the pride of art, and so the works of men. When time, the great destroyer, lifts his hand, and with a breath of his indignant wand scatters their frailties to the winds again, and blots their memory from the hearts of men. Sonnet 33, Conclusion. But here, upon this river's winding side, a different tale we hear. The Cumbrian hind, with superstitions of a gentler kind, hath peopled with aerial hosts the tide. He sees the fairies in their festive rounds, hears their soft music on the night breeze, and oft, when all is silent on the ground, he sees their shadows dancing on the trees, and in the moonlight, when the stream is still, he sees them drinking of the crystal rill. Afterthought. I thought of thee, my partner and my guide, as being passed away. Vain sympathies, for backward Duddon. As I turn my eyes, I see what was, and is, and will abide. Still glides the stream, and shall for ever glide. The form remains, the function never dies, while we the brave, the mighty and the wise, we men, who in our morn of youth defied the elements, must vanish. Be it so. Enough if something from our hands have power to live and act and serve the future hour. And if, as toward the silent tomb we go, through love, through hope, and faith's transcendent dower, we feel that we are greater than we know. Composed by the seaside near Calais, August 1802, by William Wordsworth. Fair star of evening, splendour of the west, star of my country, on the horizon's brink thou hangest, stooping as might seem to sink on England's bosom, yet well pleased to rest meanwhile and be to her a glorious crest conspicuous to the nations. Thou, I think, shouldest be my country's emblem, and shouldest wink, bright star, with laughter on her banners, dressed in thy fresh beauty. There, that dusky spot beneath thee, that is England. There she lies. Blessings be on you both. One hope, one lot, one life, one glory. I with many a fear for my dear country, many heartfelt sighs, among men who do not love her, linger here. To a young lady who had been reproached for taking long walks in the country, by William Wordsworth. Dear child of nature, let them rail. There is a nest in a green dale, a harbour and a hold, where thou, a wife and friend, shalt see thy own heart's stirring days, and be a light to young and old. There, healthy as a shepherd boy, and treading among flowers of joy which at no season fade, thou, while thy babes around thee cling, shalt show us how divine a thing a woman may be made. Thy thoughts and feelings shall not die, nor leave thee when grey hairs are nigh, a melancholy slave, but an old age serene and bright, and lovely as a Lapland night, shall lead thee to thy grave. The Reverie of Poor Susan, by William Wordsworth. At the corner of Wood Street, when daylight appears, hangs a thrush that sings loud. It has sung for 3 years. Poor Susan has passed by the spot and has heard, in the silence of morning, the song of the bird. 'Tis a note of enchantment. What ails her? She sees a mountain ascending, a vision of trees. Bright volumes of vapour through Lothbury glide, and a river flows on through the vale of Cheapside. Green pastures she views in the midst of the dale, down which she so often has tripped with her pail, and a single small cottage, a nest like a dove's, the one only dwelling on earth that she loves. She looks and her heart is in heaven, but they fade, the mist and the river, the hill and the shade. The stream will not flow and the hill will not rise, and the colours have all passed away from her eyes. Yarrow Unvisited by William Wordsworth. From Stirling Castle we had seen the mazy Forth unravelled, had trod the banks of Clyde and Tay, and with the Tweed had travelled, and when we came to Clovenford, then said my winsome marrow, what a betide we'll turn aside and see the breeze of Yarrow. Let Yarrow folk frae Selkirk town, who have been buying, selling, go back to Yarrow 'tis their own, each maiden to her dwelling. On Yarrow's banks let her herons feed, hares couch, and rabbits burrow. But we will downward with the Tweed Nor turn aside to Yarrow. There's Gala water, Leader Horfs, both lying right before us, and Dryborough, where with chiming Tweed the lint-whites sing in chorus. There's pleasant Tiviot Dale, a land made blithe with plough and harrow. Why throw away a needful day to go in search of Yarrow? What's Yarrow but a river bare that glides the dark hills under? There are 1,000 such elsewhere as worthy of your wonder. Strange words they seemed of slight and scorn. My true love sighed for sorrow, and looked me in the face to think I thus could speak of Yarrow. "Oh, green," said I, "are Yarrow's holms, and sweet is Yarrow flowing. Fair hangs the apple frae the rock, but we will leave it growing. O'er hilly path and open strath we'll wander Scotland thorough, but though so near we will not turn into the dale of Yarrow. Let beeves and homebred kine partake the sweets of Burnmill meadow, the swan on still St. Mary's lake, float double, swan and shadow. We will not see them, will not go, to-day, nor yet to-morrow. Enough if in our hearts we know there's such a place as Yarrow. Be Yarrow stream unseen, unknown, it must, or we shall rue it. We have a vision of our own. Ah, why should we undo it? The treasured dreams of times long past, we'll keep them, winsome marrow, for when we're there, although 'tis fair, 'twill be another Yarrow. If care with freezing years should come, and wandering seem but folly, should we be loth to stir from home, and yet be melancholy, should life be dull, and spirits low, 'twill soothe us in our sorrow, that earth has something yet to show, the bonny holms of Yarrow. The World is Too Much With Us by William Wordsworth. The world is too much with us. Late and soon, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. Little we see in nature that is ours. We have given our hearts away, a sordid boon. This sea that bears her bosom to the moon. The winds that will be howling at all hours, and are upgathered now like sleeping flowers. For this, for everything, we are out of tune. It moves us not. Great God, I'd rather be a pagan suckled in a creed outworn. So might I, standing on this pleasant lea, of glimpses that would make me less forlorn, have sight of Proteus rising from the sea, or hear old Triton blow his wreathed horn. The Trosachs by William Wordsworth. There's not a nook within this solemn pass but were an apt confessional for one taught by his summer spent, his autumn gone, that life is but a tale of morning grass withered at eve. From scenes of art which chase that thought away, turn, and with watchful eyes feed it mid nature's old felicities, rocks, rivers, and smooth lakes more clear than glass untouched, unbreathed upon. Thrice happy quest, if from a golden perch of aspen spray October's workmanship to rival May. The pensive warbler of the ruddy breast that moral sweeten by a heaven-taught lay, lulling the year with all its cares to rest. The Simplon Pass by William Wordsworth. Brook and road were fellow travellers in this gloomy pass, and with them did we journey several hours at a slow step. The immeasurable height of woods decaying, never to be decayed, the stationary blasts of waterfalls, and in the narrow rent at every turn winds thwarting winds bewildered and forlorn, the torrents shooting from the clear blue sky, the rocks that muttered close upon our ears, black drizzling crags that spake by the wayside as if a voice were in them, the sick sight and giddy prospect of the raving stream, the unfettered clouds and region of the heavens, tumult and peace, the darkness and the light, were all like workings of one mind, the features of the same face, blossoms upon one tree, characters of the great apocalypse, the types and symbols of eternity, of first and last, and midst and without end. September 1819 by William Wordsworth. Departing summer hath assumed an aspect tenderly illumed, the gentlest look of spring, that calls from yonder leafy shade, unfaded yet prepared to fade, a timely carolling, no faint and hesitating trill, such tribute as to winter chill the lonely redbreast pays, clear, loud, and lively as the din from social warblers gathering in their harvest of sweet lays. Nor doth the example fail to cheer me, conscious that my leaf is sere and yellow on the bough. Fall, rosy garlands, from my head, ye myrtle wreaths, your fragrance shed around a younger brow. Yet will I temperately rejoice. Wide is the range, and free the choice of undiscordant themes, which, haply, kindred souls may prize not less than vernal ecstasies and passion's feverish dreams. For deathless powers to verse belong, and they like demigods are strong on whom the muses smile. But some their function have disclaimed, best pleased with what is aptliest framed to enervate and defile. Not such the initiatory strains committed to the silent plains in Britain's earliest dawn. Trembled the groves, the stars grew pale, while all too daringly the veil of nature was withdrawn. Nor such the spirit-stirring note when the live chords Alcaeus smote, inflamed by sense of wrong. Woe, woe to tyrants from the lyre broke threateningly in sparkles dire of fierce vindictive song. And not unhallowed was the page by winged love inscribed, to assuage the pangs of vain pursuit, love listening while the lesbian maid with finest touch of passion swayed her own Aeolian lute. O ye, who patiently explore the wreck of Herculanean lore, what rapture! Could ye seize some Theban fragment, or unroll one precious tender-hearted scroll of pure Simonides, that were indeed a genuine birth of poesy, a bursting forth of genius from the dust, What Horace gloried to behold, what Maro loved shall we enfold? Can haughty time be just? The Plain of Donnerdale by William Wordsworth. The old inventive poets, had they seen, or rather felt, the entrancement that detains thy waters, Duddon, mid these flowery plains, the still repose, the liquid lapse serene, transferred to bowers imperishably green, had beautified Elysium. But these chains will soon be broken. A rough course remains, rough as the past, where thou of placid mien, innocuous as a firstling of the flock, and countenanced like a soft cerulean sky, shalt change thy temper, and with many a shock given and received in mutual jeopardy, dance like a bacchanal from rock to rock, tossing her frantic thyrsus wide and high,